big investment when buying. Definitely probably one of your most expensive pieces of hockey gear. So it's important you buy a good set when buying used, or it's important that you buy the right set when buying new. First thing I'll say is every manufacturer has their own sizing. When buying new, check it. Be sure to get the right size. When buying used, bring a pair of skates and a piece of carpet with you. When I put my skates on and that, I want my knee to land in the center of the knee block when falling. If my knee is at the bottom of the knee block, I can sometimes extend my toe ties and loosen my bottom strap to let my pad slide out, and that'll move me up into the center of my knee block. But at no point do I want to buy a pair of pads when I'm at the top of the knee block. That's bad. I'm going to hurt my knees, I'm going to miss the block, slide off. So make sure you got the correct size of pad for you. That is one of the most important things. Next piece is, each pad is made differently, and it's all personal preference. Some pads have like a double break, some have single breaks as you see here, some have no break at all. Vaughn is a stiffer pad for what I have here. They have some that are very soft. CCM, Reebok, very stiff pads. Bauer, extremely stiff pad. You must keep in mind the construction when buying a used set. If I buy a used set of Vaughns, I expect this boot break to be getting soft. So say I'm 36 normally, I might be looking at 37 used. In order to get the same height, as this boot breaks and gets softer, the pad's going to sit lower. With CCM and Reebok, they have a very different angle here, so sizing may vary. CCM and Reebok are very straighter in their boot angle. That makes the whole pad sit higher up. That's how come lots of your very tall goalies like the pad. But you have to remember, different manufacturers have different sizing. Be mindful of this when shopping. Just because I fit a 35 Vaughn doesn't mean I'm going to fit a 35 in Bauer. I might be a 34 or 33. Each pad also, each line is different. If you're buying pads, know which lines are the top end and what's middle of the road and low end. If you buy a low end pad, it is quite often the material outside and inside is different than what is pro stock pad. If it's a pro spec pad, it has different padding than the bottom line pad. It also will have different materials all over. How well those materials hold up will make a major difference. So when I'm buying pads, I got to make sure that my price point is reflective of the piece I want. I can buy a set of mid-range pads for cheaper. They won't hold up as long because the material's cheaper, or the stitching wasn't done right, or it may have been made in China instead of made in Canada. I run customs, Vaughn Customs, made here in Canada. I really enjoy the made in Canada pad. Next piece when buying a pad, you have to look for places of major wear. So I know, because I do with Vaughn a lot, this area here down the bottom wears quite heavily because it's always in contact with the ice as I move. Next place I want to check for wear is on all these folds. Where these bends and breaks are is places where I'll get ridges when I'm sliding on the ice. I got to make sure there's not holes right through. If there's a hole through the material, or the material's finish is gone, it will soak up water. Over time that degrades the padding, and the padding will break down a hell of a lot quicker. If I have a small hole, I can clog it with shoe goo. If I have maybe this piece is worn out, I can always get it restitched, or I can stitch it myself. I use dental floss to do some of my stitching. If I want to look on this whole sliding surface, make sure there's no areas of major wear. I've seen some pretty interesting patch jobs on used gear. Next piece, seeing as how we're talking with wear, we want to watch for cut holes. This is one I have to get fixed. I have a hole there. You want to make sure this space and these spaces don't have any cuts in that. That's again places water will get in. A good cheap fix for your parents that want to do it yourself. Take a toothpick, shove shoe goo in these holes, seal it down, maybe a little bit of shoe goo smooth out on top, or it'll let you get by, it'll make it work. Another thing we want to check for is wear in the front here. This area also takes a lot of wear. You've got to make sure it's in proper condition, make sure the type of pad you're buying has the type of toe ties you want or can be switched out. Vaughn, I like with this sliding toe bridge, but they also have 2 screws down here that can be switched out. So I can put a different type of toe on. Maybe I put on the Elastitoes or whatever. Everyone's got their own thing. Now let's move to the back of the pad here. So as we look at the back of our goalie pad, one of the first things you probably want to look for when buying is to make sure that all the straps are there. I have mine and they're removable. Quite often with Vaughn and other pads, you'll find they have these little pockets for removable strapping, so you can customize it yourself. This is great if they're missing, but they have these squares that you can use. Don't worry about it. You can go to most hockey shops, buy new straps for it. The one that you have troubles with is making sure these elastic Velcro straps, which everyone is now using to strap the entire pad, make sure they're in decent condition. If not, you should know where to buy a set, because you can replace all these Velcro straps except for maybe this thigh board one. But I'd probably just cut it, stitch another piece on, and stitch it. It may not look the best, but it will work to make the pad last. Okay, on the inside of the leg, I want to watch for wear here on this guard piece. This place is always in contact with the ice. As you can see, mine, I've been fixing it with shoe glue, stitching it up and that, trying to make it last because my pads are going to last me a long time. On this inner leg channel, I want to make sure the padding's still in decent shape, and I want to make sure all my buckles are there and attached well. Some of the buckles are removable. You can buy new ones at a hockey shop if you don't like them. Maybe you'll move your setup around as you play around with the pad. Next piece of the pad is the knee pad landing block. You want to make sure that the landing block is in decent shape. It's not destroyed. Everyone's got their repetitive landing spot. Mine's down the bottom kind of this pad. So I've got to make sure my landing block's in good shape. I've got to make sure it's going to hold up to my use and that I won't end up injuring my knees. Parents, when you're buying for your kids, make sure it's the right size, because when they're landing on that landing block, you want to make sure they're not going to slide through and hit here or slide off the top and smash their knees on the ice. It hurts. Yes, I know you want to make your pads last or let your kids grow into it, but if I buy an oversized pad where my kid's knee is down the bottom and I expect him to grow into it, he's going to struggle for movement. It's going to be a little hard for him. Next piece of it that we want to go over is this thigh board. When I have a pair of pads, I want these thigh boards. Some pads don't have them at all. Some people have removed them. If you're a parent, I would suggest having them on for your kid. As you can see here, if I'm down in my butterfly and my leg is coming through here, it exposes the bottom of my front of my knee, and I don't want my kids or anyone a coach to take a puck there. I suggest thigh boards and a knee guard. If you're playing really high level hockey, I suggest always knee guards. Thigh board, some pads come with them, some don't. Some have these big solid thigh boards. It is optional. You can buy them at Hockey Shop, Goalie Monkey, many other places. Last piece about pads, it's very easy, is the toe ties. You can replace them. Very simple, get the ones you want. Some like the toe sliding bridge, some like a fixed point, some like the elastic toe ties. It's all personal preference. The only rule I have is when you're wearing your toe ties, you should be able to reach to the inner point here down on the ice where you're making contact. If this pad is on the ice, I want my toe tie knot to be allowing my toes to touch the ice. If I do this, my foot now sits at a good angle, and I will relieve a lot of stress on my ankles, my knees, and my hips just by allowing my toes to touch the ice. Many parents I see that, or kids and people that are starting goaltending, have their toe tied right up here and the skate sits very flat. It's very hard on your knees.
Ever since I was a kid, hockey was my game. Ever since I saw Gretzky play, I was never the same. After school, rocking rollerblades in alleyways. I was no Gretzky, but I tried to mimic how he plays. As soon as I got my first stick, that was it. I was in every day, that was all I ever did. I was hooked, but it wasn't just for 2 minutes. minutes. If I can find a street game, you're damn right I was in it. I need to get some grip.